Hello and welcome everyone. We are ready to get started on our webinar, Share and Present from a Single Source with MindManager 2018 for Windows. And my name's Julie Harrison. I'm the Global Marketing Manager for MindManager, and I am delighted to be your host for today's session. Today's webinar features our longtime partner, Mr. Nick Duffel, who is President of Harport Consulting. Let's get started then. MindManager publishing feature is new to our product in 2018 Windows release, which came out in September. Our customers have been really loving this feature, and so it is wonderful that Nick has offered to share this with us and see how we can make the most of it.
Very good morning to everybody there from literally the opposite side of the world. I'm going to talk about MindManager publishing today. What I've got on the screen here is a map in MindManager. I tend to like to present from MindManager itself, the Windows version, so that you can actually see the commands and everything happening rather than just do a kind of a polished presentation, because this is all about what you'll be able to do with it afterwards. What we're going to do is talk a little bit about what the publishing feature is, and then I'm going to mostly do demos. So bear with me if the technology springs some surprises. You can rehearse these things endlessly and then they do something different. I'm sure you've all had that experience. But we're going to do some demos. I want to talk a bit about how it works from the publishing side, how it looks from the user side, what users see and what they can do. Then a bit about comparing the publishing with the other MindManager feature, which is the HTML5 export, and then some tips and tricks on how to get the most out of publishing. And for the people on the webinar, you'll be able to get a copy of this map afterwards. And if you really want to see it, then contact MindManager, contact Corel, and we can get a copy to you. So starting on the left-hand side of our map here, the publishing feature basically lets you send a local map up to MindManager Cloud Server. And this is a way to share maps without any real requirement on what the users at the other end might have. So they don't, although we'd love them to have a copy of MindManager, they don't need a copy of MindManager. The new HTML5 export in MindManager really recreates a very rich experience of working with maps right in the browser without any software needing to be installed. So the process is really simple. It could hardly be simpler. The author of the map publishes it through the commands we'll see in a moment. That sends it up to the cloud server, MindManager Cloud Server, and then anybody who has the address of that published map can view it. You can optionally add a password to that, and I'll explain the reasons why you might want to do that shortly. But basically, any modern web browser that can support HTML5, you can just open that map, browse around it, open and close topics, view notes, view nearly all the MindManager features that you can see in the desktop, and all they need to know is the address of that. So just to add a couple more bits of information to that, it works with all the popular browsers. They need to support HTML5, and the way that most platforms are upgraded now, people will be seeing that. It is a free service, so it doesn't cost anything extra. The tiny price for that is that there's a MindManager logo that comes up the first time anybody uses it. So once they've been on there once and the logo's appeared, then they don't see that again. It goes in the cookies and they don't see that again. But it is a free service at this point. And what it does is it generates the HTML5 export, which has been in MindManager since MindManager 2017, and uploads it to a server. You have to have a MindJet account to do that, but a MindJet account is free and only takes a few seconds to set up just with an email address. So let's have a look at what this actually does. Let's see it in action. What I've got here is we're going to publish a map about how to publish with MindManager 2018, and you'll see how we get this from MindManager up to the server. This is just a regular MindManager map. It's got nothing special in it or nothing special about it. I'm already logged into the MindManager server. If I wasn't logged in, when you went to the Home tab and clicked on the Publish, you'd see a link that lets you either create an account or log into an account. So I've already created an account and I'm logged into it. And this map hasn't been published before, and I can tell that because it's got the the command start new publish. So I click on start new publish. MindManager just asked me a couple of really simple questions. The first one is, do you want to publish it privately, or do you want to publish it privately with a password? In both cases, only people with the link can see the map. But in the second case, if I select password, I can also define a password. And the reason you would want to do that would be to stop a search engine indexing the contents of your map. So if you give somebody a link and they go away and put it on a web page, the next thing you know, that might be that a search engine has indexed that and found that. But you can prevent that by adding a password on top of that, so that somebody needs to use a password for that. Then we click publish. And what we then see is a second dialog that says it's published. So it means this map has been sent to the MindJet server. Other people can see it. It's telling us what the links are. So you get a share link and embed link. The share link is the link that you would send to somebody to give them access to your map. And we'll do that right now. Then the embed link is the bit of HTML which you could paste into a web page. If you've got control over another web page, you can make that map appear in another web page. But if we stay in this dialog now, copy this link, and then go to a web browser, open a new tab, and go to that link, this is what the users see. So it looks just the same. Magically, the HTML5 is taking all the features of MindManager maps and running it inside a web browser, and you can do most stuff except change the map. It's a read-only map, so that it's really a zero-cost reader, a zero-install reader for MindManager maps. So if you want to share MindManager maps with people who may not have the ability to install software, this is absolutely perfect. So it goes to that particular address, share.mindmanager.com, and then that long code number ties this published map back with the one that you own and that you've published. And because of the way we set it up, which we'll look at in a second, it starts in the presentation mode. And the presentation mode has a series of buttons at the bottom, start, back and forwards, a bit like walking backwards and forwards through a PowerPoint presentation, but it just walks through the topics in your map as you click them. So as you click the next button, the next topic comes up, and users can walk through the map from the central topic, then working clockwise, drilling down into the map as you go. And if there are any notes or other information or attached documents or hyperlinks, they'll pop up in the window on the right-hand side, so people can read the notes on the map as well. So this is a great way to help people start at the center of a map and simply walk through. Now, what you have to do if you're going to do this is really think about the way you structure your map and the messages that you have in your map. So maps need to be a lot more self-explanatory than perhaps they normally are when you're working with MindManager maps and developing something complex. If you're going to publish it, that's a really different place to work. You need to be writing simple statements, and connections need to be really clear, because people won't be able to follow the logic that's in your head when you created the map unless you manage to get it into the picture in some way. So that's the presentation mode. They also get a menu, which they can click on the left-hand side here, and this gives some more options. The first one, if we enable it, which is one of the options, is to let them download a copy of the map. And that makes this a really, really simple way to share MindManager maps, even if you know that they've got a MindManager client. So if you're working with someone, publishing a map to the MindManager server, letting them download is a great way to distribute maps. It's because you can easily refresh that. They can view it online before they download it. Then they can make a copy if they really want to dig in and explore and do other stuff. The next options in the menu are to change the view mode. So if we change back to standard view out of presentation, then instead of the buttons to walk through the map, we can just work with this like a regular MindManager map. So we can click on the branches to expand and collapse stuff. We can move it around, we can zoom in and out, we can read notes, we can follow hyperlinks, we can look at task information published in the map. Pretty much everything you can do in regular MindManager, but it's all happening in the browser without any software to install. The other options in the menu are viewing options, and we probably haven't got time in this session to look in detail at each of these, but what these presentation options do is they control how the presentation works. And what's important to understand is that the user chooses these. These are user preferences. You give them the whole map, and they can choose how to navigate that based on their preferences from the presentation options. And that means you have to try and anticipate how it'll work in a range of different options, because different users might choose different settings. It's not something you can control. You can't force the behavior of the viewer. The user has the choice about how the viewer works in presentation mode. But there's lots of different options there about what kind of information is shown each time you click the next button and things like that. And then the other feature here is users can print direct from the viewer, so they can print from the browser. They still don't need any MindManager software at this point. They can print a copy of the map direct from the browser. So that's the menu, and that's how it looks from the user's side. It's very fast. There's some special technology stuff in here that even if you download a big map, it's very quick. And one of the other really interesting things is that if you publish a map with attachments in it, the attachments go with the map. So you can share other documents as attachments too. So if you've got an attachment in a map, it'll open it from the browser. And even better than that, if you've attached another MindManager map, it will render that in the browser as well. You can drill down. So with a little bit of care, you can recreate a set of multi-maps as well as just a single map. You can have a suite of maps, and if you've arranged it so that you've got them embedded as attachments, then people can browse through the set of multi-maps from the viewer, which is fantastic functionality for that. Let's go back to MindManager again. We looked at the at this dialog that comes up after you've published. That's the share link. So that's the link. You can copy it and put that in an email or put that in some other channel. The embed link is, as I said, if you've got your own web page or your own blog and you want to embed these maps into your blog, you can copy the code and insert that. You can also post direct on social media from MindManager, from the MindManager publish function. So if I go back to the browser, I set up a test account on Facebook so you can see how it looks. So I published that map, and then I said publish it to Facebook as well. And what it does is it asks you if you permission to access your Facebook account. It asks you for the text that you want to add, and then it creates a post for you with the link to that map in it. So Facebook users can read a couple of lines and they can click on that link and view the map in the browser. Similarly in Twitter, it asks for permission to access your Twitter account. It asks you for a line of text, and then it tweets on your behalf. So it's all completely under control. Nothing happens automatically, but you can very quickly create a map, publish it to the MindManager server, and tweet about it literally in a few seconds, and that's all done for you. So that's a great tool if you're updating stuff for other people to read. So back to this dialog here. After you've published, you get the advanced options button. The advanced options lets you set some more stuff to do with the way that you publish the map. And the important thing to understand here is that all these options, whether you allow downloads, whether you start in presentation mode, whether you use a password, they live on the server. So they're not part of the configuration of your map. You can change these options after you've published it. You can say, I publish this map, now I want to put a password on it. I meant to do that to start with. So you don't need to go around and start again. You can change the options after you've published it. And the basic options are whether or not you allow people to download a copy of the map, which mode it starts in, whether it starts in standard mode or presentation mode, and whether you need them to have a password to view that map. You can also choose the storage location. You can have a European location or a North America location. That's important for two reasons. One might be performance, just speed of accessing a server nearby, but you also may have IT and information governance considerations. You might have rules about what you're allowed to, where you're allowed to put stuff that belongs to your company. Then the last options here are, this is a recent update. You can add branding, you can add a logo to your map, choose an image and put a hyperlink with it as well. So that's the dialog that comes up after you've successfully published a map. If I close that again, what you'll see just now appearing in the top left of the MindManager screen is this legend here that says published. And this is telling you that you've now successfully published your MindManager map. And you can now, once you've published it, you can either republish an update, or you can go back and get those share links again, or you can unpublish it. And unpublish means taking it off the server, taking away the links. So if somebody still uses the link that you sent them, then they don't get to see the map. So you've got complete control over what stays on the server, what you take back off the server again. And this publish legend only appears when you're logged in. So if you're not logged in into the publish feature, then you don't get that legend. If you give this map to somebody else, they don't see that legend. So they don't inherit control over publishing. That stays tied to your account. So you can still share this map with somebody else, and nobody else can publish over the top of it. That's still under your control there. The other thing we can do from here is manage published maps. There's a link that takes us onto the server, and we can see which maps we've got published, and we can change the options for them. We can even unpublish them from here. So if you're not sure how many maps you've published, you don't need to go through the individual ones. You can go straight to the server and see which maps are published. So there's a number of options here. You can either select and click the buttons at the top to favorite them or to unshare them, or there's menus in the maps as well. You can access the options, or you can unpublish or download them from here. So you've got a great deal of flexibility. It's really always been the case with MindManager that there's never only one way to do something. That there's always two or even three ways to get to the same thing, so that people can find the ways that work the best for them. So that was a publishing cycle. We started with an unpublished map. We published it in a few clicks. We can see it in a browser. We can get at the link. So if we go back to our agenda map, we have already talked about some of the features and the menu command. So what users can do is, in the published version, is they can do just about everything they need to read a map. They can walk through it, they can search it, they can print it. If you published a map with filtering, then the users can remove that filtering, and they can see the whole map. So it still uploads the entire map, and the user has the option to undo or reapply that filtering. There is quite a list of stuff, as you might expect, that you can't do if you publish a map. So you can't do custom filtering, you don't get the navigation thumbnails, you don't get the marker index or the Gantt chart. There's a set of features that are in the desktop version. The more powerful features in the desktop version, and you can't do those in the browser. But remember that anybody with a MindManager client can download the map and do all of that. So even if they can't do Gantt chart stuff in the browser, if they've got MindManager, they can download the map and do all those things. So it's still a great way to share maps, and people with MindManager can still get at the advanced stuff there. Let's have a quick look at the comparison of HTML5 export and the publishing feature. And what the publishing feature adds on top of the HTML export is effectively free hosting. A really simple way to refresh and update. You can republish an update to a map in a couple of clicks. Password protected access. So these are all the features that you get on top of HTML5 export. And to choose between publishing and using the HTML5 export, the HTML5 export is under the share command in the home menu, and you can do export as HTML interactive map. What that does is it produces an HTML file, on your disk, which you could then mail to somebody, or you could even upload to your own server if you wanted to do that. But if you haven't got your own web server or intranet, and you don't want to be mailing attachments around, and you're okay with the map being mostly public, it's not got a huge amount of security around it, then publishing is a really great option for that. But if you've got data that should never get into the public domain, you don't want to risk that, and you're okay with sending and receiving files, then HTML5 is a good option. And the features for the user are identical. So the menus, the way that they can access the map and what they can do with the map are the same between publishing and HTML5, but publishing just gives you the platform to do that on. So I'd like to wrap up with just a few tips and tricks now. There's, as always with MindManager, there's much more under the hood, and there's more you can do, and there's more to think about as well. When you get into this stuff, it works really fast at a simple level, but you can take it quite a bit further, as is the case, and that's really what MindManager is known for. It's, simple to use, but it's the Rolls Royce when you get under it. I wanted to mention security because this is something that is important to corporate users. Your company might not be, that you might have policies or rules about what you can put where. Not all companies are happy with stuff going into the cloud, so I wanted to set out what the security position was. As I mentioned earlier, you can configure a password which prevents search engines from indexing the map even if they find the link. So if the link leaks into the public domain somewhere, you can still block a search engine from that. MindManager has the ability to encrypt maps, but you can't publish encrypted maps because the server needs to read them. So encrypted maps you could only send direct as files. You can't use them with publishing. And there is some anonymized tracking built in. So you saw on the when we went to the server, we could see the number of times a map had been viewed. So for security recommendations, I'd say publishing is perfect for stuff that can be public. That works really well. If you've got company confidential data, then you should check with your privacy officer or your IG function to see what the policy is on using a service like this. But if you've got any sensitive information, personal information in there, I'd say don't use MindManager publishing for that. That's not really what it's designed for. So take care with privacy, and you have a great time with that. It's always handy to put the revision number on the central topic of the map, so you can easily say we're looking at revision 25 of this map. Is everybody seeing the same one? If you want to make a copy of a published map, use file save as, save a copy. Don't make a copy of the file on disk because that copies that unique publishing ID, and you get a duplicate pair of maps linked to the same place. Be aware that if you unpublish a map and then republish it, then any previous links are going to be refreshed. So it's a mixed blessing. It's a good thing because it means you can regain control if you're not sure exactly who's got a link or whether somebody might have had it that they need and they shouldn't have. Then you can unpublish and republish and make sure that you get new audience is under control. But don't refresh a map by unpublishing it first then republishing, because you'll orphan all the other links that you sent out before. Just to mention a little bit about preparing maps to publish. If you've got stuff in your map you want to hide that you don't want to publish, then save a copy of a filtered map and then export that, because we saw earlier that the whole map goes up to the server and the user can switch the filtering back off again if they want to. So you won't be able to hide stuff that you don't want them to see by doing that. So save a copy of the filtered map, or use show hide to hide stuff. Do something like put special private information in callouts, then hide those before publishing, because they can't be turned on back on in the browser. And we mentioned earlier about linked maps and documents. If you embed stuff, if you convert linked documents and maps to attachments, then the users can access those. They can download them in the browser, and link maps, attached maps, they can also drill into and browse. So just to wrap up then, the publishing function, it's a very quick way to share maps which are highly functional. There's a great interaction, good navigation, a very similar experience to the desktop software, but it all happens in the browser without users needing to install anything. And even more than that, it's a great way to distribute maps to other MindManager users as well, because they can download it from the server.
I do want to make sure to thank everyone on the line for joining us today. And if you don't happen to have the 2018 version of MindManager, please take advantage of our free trial. It's fully featured for 30 days, and we'd love for you to try out this new Publish feature. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and a special thank you to our presenter, Nick. Really appreciate it, Nick.
I'd like to add my thanks to yours, to everyone who's given up the time today. Appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Customer, you know it would be great. The quarter's coming to a close, so please don't hesitate. Place your order right away.